Public sees that you're not going to have prosperity under Joe Biden, you're going to have bankruptcy and enslavement and hyperinflation. Their only hope is to trigger racial conflict this summer, to blame civil unrest because of food prices and every other commodity price going up on that civil unrest, on racial issues instead of the economy. That's their big move worldwide. They want to use the unrest because of food price increases, like during the Arab Spring 10 years ago, to bring in their globalist revolution. But if people point out it's the globalists behind it, it'll backfire on them. So it's critical now to get ahead of the economic crisis, to get ahead of the scarcity, to get ahead of the starving third world, which the UN will then organize and use as an invasion force, as I've been warning you since February of last year of this master plan. How many months is that? Well, we're already, 6 months into this year? Hard to believe. Almost 6 months into this year. So it just makes the head spin. We're talking 14, 15 months since last February. And so, again, we shouldn't just sit here and go along with the mainstream media narrative that didn't tell you this 14 months ago or 6 months ago. Suddenly, oh, there is a bunch of inflation. Everything's going up in price. And they say, whoa, what's causing it on all the newscasts? Oh, we don't know. And then the Chamber of Commerce and others point out the truth. Not that they're perfect. It helps sell us up to China that, hey, if you give everybody free money, they don't have to work, and so there's less productivity and more money. That's more money chasing fewer goods. That's the perfect storm for massive inflation. Not just inflation, but a stagnating economy with less goods with inflation. Is that going to happen? Well, if you have a lockdown, you have such a depression and nobody's buying anything, that can mask it. But once the lockdown's over, it's going to race. And that's what we're now seeing happen. And again, that starves the third world to death. And I harp on that. And I know the third world to most people is like another planet, but it's right next door to us. That's where the raw materials come from. When they get laid off from the mine or the farm or the flour production farm, they starve to death. And the able-bodied men flee and break into your country. And then they get organized into being political operatives. So let's take your phone calls right now. Up next is Stephen in California on Communist China and all the big news coming out. Thanks for calling.
Hey there, Alex. How are you?
I'm all right, brother. Go ahead.
Well, I after all the bombshells in the past about year and a half, it still blows my mind that people can't put together the study on how to convince the population to take vaccines. I'm 22 years old. I was a Stanford student, lucky enough, but, I had to take some time off because of this, the imposition on the curriculum. You have leftism inserted into biology classes, astronomy classes. It's absolutely ridiculous.
For those that don't know, a bunch of universities, Yale, Harvard, Stanford, others were hired to come up with psychological warfare programs to get the public to take the vaccines. Doesn't look like it went too well.
Yeah, not at all. And, I was lucky enough to have a few professors there with some reality left in them, and, they were discussing with me privately about how, funding comes from these private entities, and, the funding really determines what the science ends up saying. It's not as objective as a lot of people are brought up to think. And it's become this cult where, the funders determine the outcome of every study, and it just... And
you're not supposed to question the, quote, science, but science is all about questioning. I mean, Bill Guy, the science guy, says that X and Y chromosomes don't matter now. He's actually gone back and edited videos he did in the 90s to take that out and to say that there is hundreds of sexes. Did you know that?
Hey, absolutely. It's just this gaslighting, so anybody with a head on their shoulders just can't believe what's going on. And the same thing with TV and movies, being brought up as a young man, it's just, looking back, I can see the social conditioning that's just instilled in everything. It's absolutely devastating to, young people that are trying to figure out. I saw a great video from Thomas Sowell yesterday, and he mentioned that young students, they're taught now to have views. They're not taught to, take facts in. They're taught to have views on issues that people who would long careers
That's right. Western idea of egalitarianism and having highly educated, informed people in a classical education is threatening to oligarchs that want slaves. And so now we're being taught superstition and mindless ignorance, where now they won't even teach chromosomes, they're saying, in the new 6th grade curriculum coming up in California. And Netflix, again, has removed it from Bill Nye, the science guy. Thanks for the call, Steve. All right, let's talk to Tex in Kentucky. Tex, welcome.
Yes, thank you for taking me. It's very important to tell you these two things. I'll say it as quick as I can. First, you hold the key to being able to take care of this problem. If you take your global enslavement book and put it in all languages, and we introduce this to the world, to all countries, because with the world with us, only can this stop all this from happening. And the second thing is, Obama's in charge of this. I don't care what anybody says. But when he went to Notre Dame and he made sure that the crucifix of Jesus was covered before he would go in and take that award, I think we need to make a lot of crucifixes, the same ones at Notre Dame, and have them everywhere, on billboards and all. If that bothers him, let's use it as much as we can, Alex. And
they have burned thousands of churches in France, the Muslims have. And I remember that when Obama, when I first heard that years ago, I didn't believe it. I looked it up. He demanded a cross be covered. I mean, that is, what does that tell you? Notice Biden just canceled the National Day of Prayer.
Well, if we get out and we get all these crosses out, we get them, put them on billboards, every Democrat event that they have, we have people with signs and that carrying them, I'm telling you, it'll really make it an effect.
No, I agree. I was thinking about coming out with a T-shirt with a cross on it just because it makes them so mad.
Billboard T-shirts and all, whatever we can, even on vehicles, on the side of vehicles, because I think they'll actually run. I think that it will actually affect them so much, they'll be scared and they won't want to set up at different places. And that's good if we put them on the run. But your book, your movie is the answer. We've got to let the world know.
I feel good when I see a cross. It's a powerful symbol. And I just don't know why they're so, I imagine that demon in them hates that Christ is God and that Christ sacrificed himself and is risen again. I mean, they really hate that, don't they? Because it's a symbol of the fact that they're losers.
Yeah, but what did the Knights of the Round Table use, right? Didn't they put that on their shields?
Yes.
When they went, well, there was a reason why. I think we know it.
I agree with you, brother. In fact, we should come up with a whole line of shirts that have the Crusader cross, that have the all of it. Absolutely, brother. We actually have shirts that are from Paul Watson's website